entering the Crypt, Rick, and Jonathan zone, and it's time to get smart.
We are going to be discussing truth, freedom, independence from the system, and yes, even the darker side of things.
This is information that will set you free.
Get comfortable, get focused, and in turn, get smart.
You are listening to the Crypt, Rick, and Jonathan show.
Welcome back, everybody. Of course, it is Thursday. That means one thing only. It is time for the Crypt, Rick, and Jonathan show. I hope everybody is having a great week so far. I know I am. Weather's beautiful. I've been outside for the last week doing all the things I got to do to get the yard and the gardens ready. So I've been busy. That's my whole life in the last week. I don't even really have any great updates. I've just been slugging away in the yard and enjoying it and enjoying the nature in my yard. So that has been my week. The weather's incredible. And I'm out there enjoying every minute of it because the winters here in Canada, as anyone who lives here knows, are long, cold, miserable, and I refuse to spend it inside. So that's what I've been doing. And before we bring on my amazing co-host, I always let you guys know, you know, as well as I do, guys, here at Revolution Radio, listener supported. So please donate if you can, because we are trying to keep this all listener supported. We wouldn't be able to do it without your guys' generosity. You know that. Lots of ways you can donate. Just go to revolution.radio, and at the top there is a donation tab. Many, many ways you can donate. There's Patreon, cryptocurrency, direct pay if you're in the northern half, and there's also snail mail. So that it still works. It still gets there. And any donation, it does not have to be huge. They all add up, and it keeps us doing here. All of us host here doing our amazing shows. And so thank you so much for everyone who is donating, because it is so important. We want to keep this listener supported. I always say we want to keep away big money, because then they get a say, as they always do. They will try to take over and tell us what we cannot talk about here. And that is, I never want to see that happen. This is true freedom. This is true freedom of speech to me, because anything can be discussed. So, and I know that my co-host, Jonathan Wright, come on in, is going to agree with me that this is an important time.
Indeed.
What do you think, Jonathan? How you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you for asking. And yeah, it is. It's a very important time. I'm glad we still have power to run the show and do all this for now.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, it's potentially disastrous. But you know, at least we're here for now, and so we can spread good vibes, we can spread good message, we can spread truth, and we can talk about cool shit. And honestly, like, because that's what happened last time. We've got a really cool guest this show, and I'm
excited.
He's a pair to, or you know, I don't want to say partner necessarily. I don't know exactly how they work, but I met him through Brian Stavely, the guy that we had on that was talked about all the Mandela effect stuff, which was just, I mean, dude, I still just take a snapshot of the Gulf of Mexico and send it to people, and they're like, oh. I'm like, yeah, you just didn't look in a while, did you? Because, I mean, I'm, you know, and I think it matters to be a certain age group, because kids are going to look at it and be like, yeah, well, you know what I mean? They're not going to get it. But I don't know when it changed. I know that what I look at now when I see the Gulf of Mexico is not what I was looking at. It's just,
that's crazy.
It's so,
like, I always say, I keep saying to myself all the time, like, how did we get here?
I know,
I was just saying that to my friend today. We were driving around getting stuff that I needed for the yard, and I'm just like, I just kept saying that to him. I'm like, how? I don't, even the city I live in, we were driving around, because I don't go into the city often. I'm on the outskirts, and I will go in if I have to. And we were driving around, and I don't recognize anything. I'm like, what is going on with this world? Like, it was really, really weird. It was beautiful today, and there was no people on the main strip. Like, you know, the main strip of a city is usually bustling with people.
Yeah, right.
There's people everywhere. I'm like, he's like, what do you notice? I'm like, there's no people. Like, what is going on here? Like, it's just weird. I don't it used to be such a busy city and so alive, and
yeah,
there's shops are closed down. I'm like, this is crazy.
Things, well, you know, the only thing that's constant is change, right? So,
it's changing.
And I mean, you can find the good in it. I mean, sometimes it's going to require heavy lifting and hard work to do that, right? But Man, I mean, or internal work, dude, like changing your whole life path because shit's different now. Like, I mean, like kind of like where I'm at and going through. I enjoy the shit out of it. I like roller coasters.
Mm-hmm.
I like having to have faith because on paper none of this looks like it's gonna work or would make sense to anybody. Certainly not any bean counters. I don't live my life by bean counter methodology. So you know what I mean? So it's like,
what's bean counter methodology?
well,
I've
just
never
like
heard that.
always making sure the money lines up and do you have enough to do this? Oh, make sure you
Okay.
budget for this. Dude, I spend until I'm out and then I'm like, well, what I need will come. And then it just does.
My friends, my good friend is really had me thinking, and I remember saying this to my wife today. I think I'm not sure if he's crazy or he's genius. I said maybe it's the line between. I said, but what he does is he will work really hard for like 3 days or 4 days. He'll get all these jobs, odd end jobs, make a lot of money, and then he doesn't work for like 3 weeks. He just budgets his money and he does his thing, and he's out in the yard. He's living his life, and then he runs out of money. He goes and he just rinse and repeat. And I'm like, wow, like he's gone to something here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's happy as hell. Like
that's the life I took on when I started being a glassblower. So I graduated college. I was supposed to go be a microbiologist. I was like,
I know, right? Like,
yeah, and I was like, no, I don't want to do all that. And then I just kind of went to the universe. I was like, help. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I'm not meant to do that. We both know this. So I'm open. And my buddy is like, come check out my glass shop, bro. You've been up here in college this whole time. You haven't seen my shop. He's like, I've been doing this for 3 years. I'm like, all right. My mom kicked me down the old car for graduation. So I drove down there, which was like a 2.5, 3 hour drive to go to see a shop. And I played with some glass while I was down there. And he's like, damn, dude. He's like, for the first time, he's like, you should build a shop in your garage. And I'm like, oh. He showed me a case of pipes, a gun case, right? Just for handguns. Mm-hmm. And it had probably, I don't know, 50 pipes in it, two layers. So he had 20 on one layer and about 15 or 20 on the other layer. And he said he was getting ready to go sell that for like $2,500. And it was already sold. And he said it took him about 5 days to make. And I was like, oh. He's like,
that's the way to do it.
And just standing here listening to Metallica, smoking weed and blowing glass. I'm like, oh, I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did.
It's amazing, man. Like that's what I said. I think that's the line between genius and insanity and throwing caution to the wind, right? Because like he said, he goes, he's like, some weeks they can get pretty tight because the jobs aren't there. But
I had no insurance, dude. I had no
you have
safety
nothing.
net. Nobody wrote me a paycheck. When I made the glass, I then had to go sell it. I had to then go buy my own materials, and I had to learn how to do it all together. Like, oh God, please help. You know what I mean? And that was literally like, well, I'll be homeless if I don't.
But you figured it out.
Motivation, right? So
that's the motivation. And what you didn't have was an 80-hour-a-week job.
Yeah. Hell, I was working towards my freedom. So of course I was like, oh dude, this is not that hard. And I started in January in Colorado. So the heat from the torch and all that was non-existent. It was like you're freezing out there. Oh God. And the glass was harder to deal with because it's real cold. So you had to warm it up more. Oh, pain in the ass. But you do what you got to do. And yeah, it's work until you have money and you're like, sweet. And then you just kind of live
chill,
life.
Man. Yeah.
But when you're learning, you got to keep going, right? You got to keep learning how to blow glass. And then there gets to a point where you're kind of like just flowing with it. And then you're like, you just work when you want to and don't when you don't.
Yeah. And it's just people like that do that too are so, from what I've seen, and I've met a few now that are like that, and they're so chill and a pleasure to be around. And one thing I will say, at least the people I'm running into are smart, really smart. Like I keep telling you, my one friend, I want to get on here. He will not come on. He's petrified to come on radio. And I don't know enough. I'm like, you know more than probably 80% of the people, these zombies walking around. You know more. Like, and he knows it well. Yeah. And he will not come on. And he's just so, and I've met a few people like that. And then when I went to my brother's for those 5 days on the homestead, like, I mean, there's a better way to do things than what we're doing. This is not the way we're not meant to be like this 80-hour a week, your whole life is working and then sleeping and working and sleeping. And then maybe on the weekend you have one day to go out and have a few drinks or do whatever you want to do, go to the cottage, go fishing, then rinse and repeat 80. It's not the way we're meant to be. And I've seen this homestead lifestyle, even for 5 days, how healing it was. And everybody was just chill. Like it was really, and my brother sells eggs, and you know what I mean. And it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really cool, man. Like, so I'm sorry, I'm on a rant here because I just
No,
get
that's
frustrated
cool,
with.
Cool. Well,
People
I think our guest will be right in line with this.
He's gonna be. There's gonna be a good conversation.
Yeah. So his name's Dave. That's how I heard him announce himself on the show that I watched when I first met him. And he also goes by Sovereign Soul Unchained Mind. And I believe that's the name of his YouTube channel, Sovereign Soul Unchained Mind. And as far as I know, this guy knows a lot of different stuff. He's been doing this for quite some time, and he's going to be a fantastic addition to this show in that he's got experience clearly, and he knows a lot of different conspiratorial topics. And again, he sits across from Brian Stavely, and you guys heard him a couple weeks ago. So I think that kind of talks about what we can talk about and where this may go. So we're just going to have fun and jam, and I'll let him introduce himself a little bit more because I know I don't know a whole lot about him. But Dave, thank you so much for being here on the show with us.
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's really good to be here.
Cool.
Yeah, I was really digging on what you guys were talking about because that's right up my alley. What you were talking about specifically, Jonathan, I bring that up a lot, that people actually are manifesting their own poverty. They manifest their own poverty by their subconscious is always hearing, not enough money. I don't have enough money. There's not enough money. And so consequently, what occurs? There's not enough money.
Yep.
Whereas if you go with just, I always have what I need, and you're confident in that, and that's the whole thing. It takes absolute 100% belief. That's how prayer even works. Prayer has to be accompanied, of course, with the gratitude of that which you've prayed has come to fruition. Amen, or it is so. That's what that actually means right there. But the system is very, they know this, and this is how they keep you in that low vibration and keeping your mind to manifest your own problems. I mean, that's exactly what's going on in this world today. Once people understand, that's what the Unchained Mind aspect of my YouTube moniker is that once you free your mind, your ass will follow. That's the reality of it, because the biggest prison in the world is your own mind. And if you give that to someone else and you rely on this is the whole thing, is that if you treated your mind like a slate and you decided to go in there and just erase all the shit that's in there that wasn't yours, all the shit that was given to you, and decide to only put on there what you decide to put on it, then you've got a different story on your hands. And that's what I ended up having to do, because 12 years of teaching you a lot about nothing really clouds up the whole game. It really does. And that's exactly what they do. That's exactly what they do. And it is an indoctrination. This is why I snicker. I hear people say, well, I'm educated. And I'm like, yeah, that means dumbass to me. I mean, it really does. You let somebody else take your brain, put it in a jar, stir it around for a number of years, turn it into ramen noodles and stick it back in your head. Because you have a piece of paper like the scarecrow doesn't necessarily mean anything. It doesn't really mean you're smart. Just because somebody said you memorized this crap and regurgitated it back to me the way that I told you, so therefore you are smart, and here's a piece of paper to prove it. You never verified any of the shit. You just went with it.
Yeah, exactly. It means that you can start a project and follow through with a project is really kind of what it speaks to.
Absolutely.
And then they put that black square on your head at the end, which represents like a very base earth plane of and it's an imprisoning type of a symbolism that keeps you inside their knowledge, and that black, you know what I mean? It's all representative, and I know you know this. I'm just kind of speaking for all of us at this point. We all know this, but some of the people listening might not. And to get that, they go, oh wow, shit, that's how because that's what they mean for you. And then there's like, yeah, good boy, that's right, boy, and that was expensive, huh? And now you get to come make me money, and I'll give you a crumb the rest of your life. And if you're lucky, you'll be able to buy a boat one day.
Yeah,
And
you can't
and
go
maybe
on.
have enough money saved up to go on a whole week vacation once a year.
Well, John
about
Rockefeller, who was behind operating and setting up the National Education Association, was quoted as saying, "I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers."
Exactly.
You see,
Yeah.
when they even sold that NEA, when they first sold that, they got this woman. It was beautiful. They got this woman, old school marm looking woman with glasses, you know, kind of elderly, looked like a teacher. And she was putting this forth and how important it was to have academic standards within all the nation's schools and everything. And then once it was accepted, the mask came off, the old lady's gone, and there's John Rockefeller sitting in the seat.
That's the sleight of hand that they use on people. I can't, Dave, I don't know how many times I've said that over the last few years, is that and I agree with what you're saying, that they enslave your mind. That's why I think I'm great that you brought that up, because I've said that so many times. I'm sure my listeners are like, oh my God, he's saying it again. But I think it's so important that you're right. That's the dangerous part. If you have shackles around your ankles and you're have a chain dragging behind you, you can at least see it. You know you're enslaved. The trick they've done, which is way more devious and evil, is they've enslaved your mind, like you said. And that is, if they enslave your mind, they own you. Like,
right.
They own you. I mean, I don't know how to tell people any different. And then I got people really push on me sometimes about that. And I'm like, they've enslaved every aspect, and it's in every aspect of your life that they're controlling. It's really genius what they've done. I mean,
they've given everyone a massive case of amnesia.
Absolutely.
Okay. So they've lied to you about who you are. They've lied to you about where you are. And they've lied to you about when you are.
Yeah.
You see,
Yep.
Those are like the three basic things that an amnesia victim says. Who am I? Where am I? What day is it? Right?
Yeah. And then the calendars are all switched up into this 12 system instead of the 13, which never lets us sink back up into anything naturally, which we would eventually, and we'd sink and go, oh, we get it. But no. They've got us all reading these numbers and following these things that don't make sense.
Enslaved by a dial on the wall.
Yeah.
Enslaved by a dial on the wall. And if you want to test this out, ask somebody, are you hungry? The first thing they'll do is look at the clock.
Yep.
Now
are you tired? The first thing they'll do is look at the clock. It's like, I didn't ask you what time it was. That's a feeling. Hungry is a feeling, not a time.
Mm-hmm.
Tired is a feeling, not a time. And that was interesting what you were saying about the weekdays and the weekend, because you get weak as you work through the days, the weekdays. And then at the end of it, you have a weekend. You get to kind of recharge a little bit for that. It's all wordplay. There's so
and you
much
start off your morning, which is an action that's done for the dead.
Yep.
Right. So you're like your morning, and then
you wake.
You wake, and then your job had some meaning in Hebrew that was like servitude. You go to your servitude. The whole thing is lined out to be like this.
It's word magic.
All kinds of word magic.
It's word magic. I say it all the time. Yeah.
And real quick to interrupt, and then we'll carry on. But like Rick, this is the show we're doing next week with Dan.
Right.
Is that we have a friend who had some sort of consciousness download from God it wasn't during his near-death experience, but it was at a different time. But anyway, he says he got taken back past the Matrix and then shown how language creates everything. And then now he can sit here and talk about all these letters and all this stuff, and he can tell you what your name, he can tell you who you are, what your mission is, based on your letters of your name. So
letters are pictographs.
Yes.
Okay, letters are pictographs. This is really interesting too, because like for instance, the letter E, what does that represent? It shows a vertical post with a direction toward, right? Mm-hmm. And we use like the word enter, exit, that kind of thing. All right, so a D, for instance, it usually represents a passage, a doorway.
That's right.
Okay?
That's what he says too.
Passage. The A represents the Aleph. The Aleph, that's the higher mind. A T, that's a crossroads, an intersection. Okay. And the H, what is the H? H, two posts with a line going between. That's the breath of life. So let's dissect the word death. A doorway leading to the higher mind at the crossroads of the breath of life. Boom, death.
And then, so then think about breath, which is, I mean, you know, it's funny. He actually wanted to reach out to me because of my name. And then he goes, it took him a little bit before he told me it. Because when he does this, it's like, wow, dude, it's really cool to hear him because he's very prolific at saying it. But he was, everything he said was exactly what you said, worded a little differently. But his letters meant the exact same thing as what you're just saying. So that's really, you're the only person I've ever heard, which I'm sure clearly it's out there. I just haven't heard it from somewhere else. But he can go through the whole alphabet, and then he can put words together, and then he can also do groupings, and he also equates it with numbers. And then he gets onto this chart, like when we're in first grade and you're having to do big A and little a and big B and little b. He talks about the differences there, and then there's some sort of spin that he refers to as you go up, and then it also refers to a tense of sorts.
Are you familiar with Dave Murphy from Allegedly Dave?
No, I don't think so.
Black dude with a British accent. Really great guy, man. I met up with him in Las Vegas during Flattoberfest, and I wish I'd have recorded it because he and I were just having the most awesome conversation on just that right there. And he's really well versed in it as well. If you get a chance, look for Allegedly Dave on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, he's really got it going on.
Those conversations are
the
the
lot
best.
of people bridging, you know, a lot of this stuff that it eventually, this is what happens is, like you were saying, I've been into the, you know, what would quote unquote conspiracy theories. They're not theories. There's definitely conspiracies.
Facts.
I'm a conspiracy analyst.
Right.
And, you know, going way back when there was a lot of talk about the Kennedy assassination in the early 70s. See, I paid attention to politics. My mom kind of made me because I was coming up during a pivotal time. The Vietnam War was coming to a close. You know, I all through my whole life up to that, I was seeing the Vietnam War on the news every night, something about it. And then when Nixon came in and the Watergate hearings, okay, and when he resigned from office, I mean, I really was paying attention to this stuff, and you heard a lot of this talk in my house. And my dad, of course, was on to a lot of the fringe stuff that not what the mainstream was telling you. So I was exposed to a lot of this early. And so I knew that there was shenanigans going along. I was never under any illusion that our government was some kind of a great thing, this bastion of freedom and all this other nonsense, right? And then one day somebody came to me though, and they said, yeah, well, you're pretty open-minded, but did you know that the earth is flat? And I said, get the fuck out of here. You're a nut. Shut up. Get out of here. I mean, that's our first response to that. Because I had not taken into account, why did I think such a thing? Nobody ever does. It's because they were told that. They were indoctrinated into that from a very, very early age, right? And so I started hearing some murmurings about this, you know, here and there and on social media. And I thought, well, Christ, I've got a pretty good science background. You know, don't look at me as an academic. I quit high school as soon as I figured out I could quit school.
Right.
I hated school. I viewed it as a prison. My knowledge, 99% of it comes from I learned it myself, you know, and that was one of my problems with school anyways, because I was always ahead of them. I was like, this is so boring, man. I already know all this. Why are we doing this? You know, so I just out. But I was very well versed in the subjects of astrophysics and how space travel and stuff like that was supposed to work. But I hadn't taken into account the very basic physical impossibilities of it, because they just gloss over that and you take it for granted when you're a kid, right? You're a ball in space. What is space? Space is this area that's void of matter, and there's planets and stars and this kind of shit. Okay. Well, you don't even look at the physical impossibilities of that. So to make a long story short, I went about trying to debunk it, the flat Earth. And people started pointing out some of these basic physical impossibilities. And I was like, whoa, I never thought of that. How do you get a ball of hydrogen to form under any conditions outside of containment? How do you get an unbonded material such as gas to do that? It's completely against what gases do. So there goes the sun. So how do we even have
they would
air?
make up they have magic for that though, that people that want to believe it. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'll shut it right back up.
You're all right. You're all right.
The gravity of itself weighed in on itself, and man, that was back during the Big Bang times when shit was different in the world. Things reacted differently. That's literally their answer, and then that's a F-all for everything. It's like, oh, it was just different back then.
Right.
Sorry. Go ahead. Please.
It's all excuses based on
them wanting
theoretical
it to be a ball in space. They want that ball.
Well, I mean, it's like, first off, gases don't behave that way. Okay. People don't get this. A lot of people, they just don't understand. Gases are what's known as unbonded materials. In other words, the gas molecules are not bonded to one another. Okay. So they're subject to free expansion, which means they're just going to keep going until they bounce off of something. They're not going to succumb to gravity. That's just ridiculous. Nobody can ever demonstrate that a gas being drawn down to the earth for any other reason than it being cold. That's it. And that's because it contracts and becomes denser than the air above it. It's just balance. It's relative density disequilibrium. They say, well, we have a pressure gradient. We have a pressure gradient from the bottom of your swimming pool to the surface. What's that due to? Displacement. Now, as you also rise in elevation, what happens? It gets colder, doesn't it? And what happens to a gas as it gets colder? The pressure decreases. We had a cold snap, and I went to go to the store, and I started up my Jeep, and the thing came on and told me all four of my tires were low. All four of my tires. They were full up to the day before, but this cold snap somehow, sucked air out of my tires? No, because the pressure did decrease noticeably, enough to trip the sensor on the vehicle. You can't have a volume of gas without containment. It's impossible. It's just a physical impossibility. And once people can get that around their head, now you start seeing all the problems.
Right.
Gravity never having been proven. It's an assumption. They like to say, oh, look at the buoyancy formula. It has a G in it. I can change the G to an A for acceleration. It's an observed effect. You assume the cause. No one's denying the observed effect. Heavier than air, objects fall. And they say, yeah, but in a vacuum. Wait, what did you change between it being in a vacuum and it being out here? Did you change gravity, or did you change the medium in which the objects were in? You changed the medium. That makes the independent variable the medium. What happens if I make the medium denser? The rate of acceleration decreases, doesn't it? I mean, absolutely. I can, if it's all nothing more, they like to say weight is mass times acceleration.
You know what I'm wondering, Dave, too? As you're talking, I'm wondering, because I think back to the people, we lean on all these theories from people in our past. And I'm just wondering, I always wonder if Isaac Newton could come back now, his gravity argument, would he even believe it? Would he be like, wait a minute, I had a theory way back when, you know what I mean? But things have changed. I mean, I've just always wondered that, because we really lean on these things. He didn't even want to
be ascribed to it when he was alive.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm just wondering, I imagine his thoughts would change, but we still lean on that and go to that. These people.
The problem is that they're still doing that, Newtonian gravity, and that's for the peons. Okay. They still want you going ahead and going along with the mass attracts mass, even though no one's ever witnessed this. This has never been witnessed. So they say, they scream Cavendish experiment, and it's like, wait a minute, the Cavendish experiment was not developed to prove mass attracting mass. Cavendish was trying to calculate the mean density of the Earth. Okay. It's sort of like Viagra wasn't invented for boners. It was a heart medication, but it gave people boners. So they said, hey, that's what we'll sell it for.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's a demonstration of torsion dynamics. It's pseudoscience is basically what it is. And before you have an experiment, you have to have an observation. You observe something happen in nature, and then you hypothesize what was the cause of that. So you develop a hypothesis, then through scientific experimentation, you determine whether or not your hypothesis was correct or not.
Yeah.
Okay. So when did anybody ever observe mass attracting mass? Nobody ever seen two big objects draw closer to one another, want to start leaning together, or anything of that nature at all.
And if you had, you'd see the moon sucking into the planet a long time ago, and it would have crashed into us by now.
Well, that's another thing. It's just
Just if they're
gravity
going
of
off
the moon
that.
causes the tides.
Yeah. Oh, and yes, and that's so great that you brought that up, because Rick
Here
said
we
that
go.
earlier. He goes, well, I know the tides are a problem for flat Earth, and I'm like, whoa,
Well,
it's not a problem for me, dude.
Well, let
You
me
know-
explain though, because I know somebody that went on a trip, and they were watching the tide, and the tide at certain times, I can't remember if it was twice a day or whatever, but it would go out almost a kilometer. Like it was like far. It went far, far, far out, and then it would be like 3 hours to 6 hours later. I think it was 6 hours. It would come back. And I'm like, okay, like, and I'm just, my brain's like, okay, like I'm fully on board for listening to any theories, and my mind is very open to this. I don't think the world is what they tell us. I've always said I think it's bigger. That's always what my mind goes. But I'm like, tides to me for a flat
real
Earth are a
quick, just
problem.
based on what you said, how long does it take from when it gets sucked out at that moment when you're like, oh, here it goes, and then you
Mhm.
time it, and then, oh shit, here it is back. How long did you
6
say? Rough?
hours.
6 hours. Now,
But
when you
it's
look up in
doing
the
that
sky.
simultaneously on both sides of the globe at the same time.
Yeah, right, sure, but also look up in the sky, and the moon is supposedly causing that, right? That's their theory. So we're going to go with that for a second. If the moon is causing that, and in that, what'd you say, 6 hours? Where's the moon? It goes from there to there.
Hmm.
So it moving from there to there made it go out and back? I mean, and then go 20 miles up the coast, 50
Well-
miles, and then watch how it didn't move at all. And you're like, oh, wait, what the shit is that about? See, that's when it starts to get crazy. There's places on the Earth where it does that, and there's places on the Earth where the tide just is what it is all day long.
Or the Great Lakes that have no tide.
Yeah, I'm on Lake Ontario here, so I mean,
What do
yeah.
you think? What is your proposition about
Yeah.
tides, Dave? What do you think and know about it?
Well, I have theories on it. I know it's to correlate it with the moon pulling on it. First off, I want to show you just kind of give you the problems with that. Your
Yeah.
blood is the same composition as seawater, and you didn't feel the moon draw on you. Large crowds of people together would be the same as a large ocean body of water, and large crowds of people are not swayed by the moon as well. If there was gravity from the moon pulling on the heavy, dense water of the Earth, and gravity is what supposedly holds our air onto our Earth, why do we not experience an atmospheric tide? We should have a noticeable pressure difference due to lunar activity, but we don't. Now, to put that correlation, it would be easy to do that. Monday through Saturday, I see a little red car go up my road. Goes right past my house. A little while later, my mail is delivered. Okay. So I could make the indication that a red car going by my house causes my mail to arrive. Is that true? Could be. Because maybe a guy's just going to work shortly before my mail comes. Or indirectly, maybe the guy headed to work is the mailman, and in the period of time that it took him to go by my house and get in his mail truck and come back, he came and delivered the mail. So we can't make a direct correlation. with that little bit of evidence, especially when we get tides when there's no moon whatsoever.
That's a good point.
Okay? So there's a lot of problems with that. Now, on older maps, there are vortexes that have been mapped, and they're actually on the maps, whirlpools. And I wonder if there's not some kind of a regularly scheduled drainage and filtration type system to this whole thing that causes the water to go down and pump back out, kind of like how a swimming pool works.
Like breathing.
I'm thinking of a fish tank. What if it's like a filter? This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
in my mind.
Like-
What about
like
maybe
breathing.
it's a filter?
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
It's the
I mean,
earth
the earth
breathing. It's
is-
the water
is-
breathing, undulating underneath. I believe it comes from underneath. Several different places I've seen. That's what they hypothesize, and they're very confident when they talk about it that way. But there's no proof, I suppose. But where does water come from up in the mountains all the time? I mean, dude,
Right.
it's not snow all the time. It's water constantly flows from the top of mountains.
Yeah.
That's a good
Springs.
point.
Constantly.
There's primary water, and listen, they just recently came out and said that they found an ocean under the Earth's crust.
Yep.
Bigger. It's, what did they say? 3 times the volume of all the oceans on the surface.
Yep.
Sounds a little bit like the waters below. to
Right,
me.
Sheol or the
Waters
waters
above
beneath,
and
or
the
yeah,
water-
waters
Yeah,
below.
yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
And how the fuck would they know that? They said it's 44 kilometers below the Earth's crust, and the deepest hole we've ever dug is like 8 miles.
8 miles, yeah.
How would they know that? How would they know what lies beyond that? So I'm calling bullshit on the distance.
And the amount, it's this big. Really? How do you know?
Yeah,
What
where
did
you
you
getting
use
the
to
volume?
see it? What kind of ground penetrating radar goes down 44 miles, bro? Like,
Right.
They just make shit up, dude. Did you hear the congresswoman, the really dumb one?
Which one?
I don't. I know. I'm sorry.
I was gonna
that
say
didn't do
which
any
one.
Good, I know, but she came out right after the eclipse and she said, "Okay, the moon is made out of." She goes, it's hollow, and it's made out of gas, and it's charged, and then the sun and the moon are the same size. I was almost like, has she been sent out to like be like a double spy or something? Like, she doesn't know what she's saying, but she's actually telling us some of the truth. Because then Alex Jones came on and just lambasted her for being like mentally retarded. And I'm like, no. I mean, clearly what she was saying sounded really dumb, but I'm like, I think they're putting some stuff out there. Because this was just after I had seen, whether I know it's real or not, but the moon had that lightning bolt that shot out of it that people captured not that long ago. And then the senator comes out, I mean, a week later or a few days later, talking about that, but she sounded so dumb. So it's almost like, I think that's how they would do it.
Listen, if you look at the 1587 Urbano Monte map, you can go to the David Rumsey map collection, and you can find this. It's awesome.
David who?
David Rumsey, Rumsey.
App collection? Is that like .com or something?
Yeah, it'll come up. It'll be the first thing in your search. I guarantee
right.
you. It'll start autofilling before you get through his name.
Oh, okay.
But he's got all kinds of old maps there. Anyway, this thing, it shows Antarctica like it does on an AE map. Just, I see you have a Gleason's map behind you.
Oh wow, that's a
Just
wild
like
map.
that.
Okay, I brought it up. Sorry.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it shows it like that, but it shows inlets with detailed coastline on the other side. It also depicts Antarctica with flora and fauna.
Yep. Absolutely.
What's going on there? What has
We've been lied
changed
to.
since 1587 till now?
Oh, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
my
also,
goodness.
I mean, there's really quite a lot to that you have to question. And Australia's missing. With all that detail, and you missed Australia, what's going on?
Yeah.
It shows Australia as part of the Antarctic continent or continents.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Well, who was that?
Now,
Who was that guy that went over Antarctica and then he started? God, I wish I could remember the name. But
Admiral Byrd.
no,
Yep.
but another guy went over and they started. Was it him that saw like he said he saw like mammoths and everything, and it was like really lush and green?
Mhm.
and I was like, wow, like what is going on there? Because he's in Antarctica and yeah, it's all for ice and that, but then he starts seeing like it's tropical.
Temperate. You got to a temperate area. That's
incredible.
On Periscope Films on YouTube. You can look at the footage of it. Here they are. They land in this lake. It was 36 degrees Fahrenheit, the water. There were mountains of coal and all kinds of resources around.
I've seen
Now,
that.
shortly after, this is really interesting because we got bombed about that time.
Yep.
By all kinds of B-grade Hollywood movies going to space, and aliens and shit like that, right?
Yep.
And all the globes for the intro to the movie studios, spinning around, Universal and Paramount Pictures, all that shit. Oh my god.
So there was this movie, and I have it. It's on the archives. I think it's called The Land Beyond. And it was like 1950, 1951, somewhere in there, like right after Admiral Byrd, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the gist of the story is that they were going back as to with you and showing that footage of found in the temperate area and the lake and everything else like that. So they were doing another exhibition. And they went down past that area and found tropical with dinosaurs and shit. Now, this was just a sci-fi movie, right? But then, boom, no more of that. Everything's focused on space. Everything's focused on space. I think it's interesting. If anybody can point out a map to me that actually has the seventh continent of Antarctica on it, I would love to see that. No maps depict Antarctica. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Try to find a picture of it from space on Google. You will find cartoons. You will not find a picture of Antarctica from space.
And that's because, I mean, it's clearly not what we were told. And what, oh man, and I got so many questions. I was gonna ask you about like, well, are you aware of and like so vibes of cosmos?
Well, can Jonathan, can we just back up one second?
Just real quick, yes and no's, and then I'll let you have it, Rick. And then
well, I just want to finish up on tides when you're done. I just want to get Dave's theory on what's going on with tides.
Okay.
And then I'll let you guys continue.
How much weird shit you had gotten into, like the crater guy talks about the reflective, everything that we're looking at could be a reflection, and just like space, and that's clearly what he was saying, that space, they figured out what space was, which was like, oh shit, that's a wall and we can go past it, and they're like, oh quick, turn him into Chewbacca and Han Solo, and send him up there.
Yep.
Wow. Sorry, Rick. Yeah, but we will finish on tides.
As far as the tides, I don't know what causes the tides. I do know it's not gravity from the moon. Okay, but we have to be careful in this because we get hit with this one all the time. That, well, if you don't know what it is, then it just is what we've said, and it's like, no, I've already shown you that it isn't. So falsification is independent of replacement.
Right.
You understand?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's an easy trap to get caught into, And a lot of people are afraid to say, I don't know.
Right.
Well, I don't know what causes that, but I know it's not this. And I can demonstrate why. Absolutely, 100%. It'd be tantamount to us walking into a room. We see some people laying dead on the floor. They've been shot multiple times, right? Everybody's dead. And we go, oh my God, there was a murder here. Somebody says, well, I can't figure why somebody would want to kill these people. And you say, well, does that, I guess that mean, I don't either. So that means they weren't murdered, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't know why they would do that. Or we don't, that's the thing.
We can't explain it in our mind, so it must just not be real.
Right. I don't know how a murder took place or what exactly happened here, but it's very clear that these people were murdered. That's the same.
The whirlpool theory of yours, I've never thought of, and that's really cool, especially if it's mapped, like you're saying, that there are actually maps of this, and we've heard of these whirlpools that we've seen them in smaller scales, and it just made me, Dave, think about what you were saying about whirlpools, because I saw a documentary, I can't remember what it was called, I wish I could, because they were talking about looking at supposed impact craters in the desert from asteroids and stuff like that, and somebody went and started comparing those impacts with sinkholes, ancient
Geysers.
sinkholes, and they were like they look identical. So
Yeah.
and then they got into the whole flood of the Bible, and that maybe it didn't rain, maybe it was like the sinkhole, like from the ground, kind of the flood
Geysers.
up. Geysers, yeah, there you go. And
Geyser
this
crater.
documentary was really compelling. I was like, they look identical, like the asteroid impact and this
Well,
geyser.
I've been to I've been to Meteor Crater. Okay, the
Mhm.
one in Arizona,
That's fascinating.
and I'm like,
How big is
okay,
it?
so where's the meteor?
How big is it? Yeah, right. Exactly.
Right? Okay, who witnessed the meteor hit?
Mhm.
Where
Yeah.
did the meteor come from? Yeah, look at that cartoon.
And where's the debris? Where's the scatter field, bro? Where's the because it didn't just come straight down into us and thunk
Exactly.
like a golf ball in mud, did it? No.
I told the park lady that was there, I says, man, I said, that's incredible. You guys are really lucky. And she said, why is that? And I said, look how close that came to hitting this visitor center, man.
Is it just a big bowl?
Yeah,
I've never. So,
I'll tell you what, it looks exactly like a geyser crater. It
Okay.
absolutely it does.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever seen a rock from space hit the ground.
Oh.
Nobody. Okay. You're told that these things are rocks that come from space. That's another thing to be afraid of, boy. Holy
Yeah, right. But
cow.
they don't go up though, ever, do they? And
No.
That's
They
one.
never go up. Yeah.
Because we're on a ball there is no up around us supposedly, and once you go through the halfway point, down becomes up. So then why don't we see every direction of falling star, which you would, and you don't. You only see them from the top down, and it's an interesting phenomenon that if you look into it, you find out that it's like these like gases burning.
Right.
Kind of thing. I don't really have a very good explanation of it. That's the best I got when I was watching Vibes of Cosmos, and he was running through his thing. I'm like, oh shit.
They look like cymatic patterns to me.
Yeah.
Like sound. And this is what I think is really interesting is that when you look at stars, and especially with the P900, the P1000, these globetards, they always want to say, oh, it's out of focus. No, it's not out of focus. It's not. And they all have a different pattern to them.
Mhm.
And I've looked really heavy into cymatics. Cymatics is really interesting. That's the pattern in physical material that sound will make. And it's really interesting. I've been told that if the Hebrew letters alphabet are sang in their correct tone, they will form the letter in sand through cymatics.
Cool.
Now, I have yet to see anybody do that yet. This is just something I've been told, but I think if that's true, that's really interesting. But the reality of, and then you think about this, okay, so the sound, cymatic patterns, light function, it looks like light in water. And then we look through these different traditions throughout the ages, people depicting the stars as sentient. They all have these names of sentient beings, especially with angels, and the angels always depicted with trumpets and musical instruments and choirs of angels. And I got to thinking one day, what if the stars are nothing more than a grand choir or an orchestra playing our reality into existence?
Wow.
That's
That's
cool. And what about people
crazy.
hearing unexplained sounds, Dave, all over the world?
Hey,
People are
that's
recording crazy sounds that they can't explain, and they sound like they're coming from the top down, from the sky down.
that's fascinating. I would love to experience that myself.
too.
hear it
Me too.
myself.
Some of them were kind of scary, dude. They sounded like rusty doors swinging
Yeah.
open.
Yep.
They sounded kind of like if you've ever seen Dragon, the Bruce Lee story from back in the day, which I bet most everyone has. And there's that part where he goes into Space Cadetville and he's like, oh shit, I gotta fight my demon. And then they blast those horns.
Yep.
You're like, oh dude, that sounds like the gates of hell opening. And I've just seen some YouTube videos and whatever different TV shows where they'll play those clips, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh shit! If I woke up to that at 9 a.m., I'd be like, well, oh, get your helmets because it's gonna be a rough
what the
ride.
world? Yeah. And this is the thing too, is that something, and I'm sure many of your listeners and yourselves may feel this as well. It's like this impending feeling of waiting for the other shoe to drop, like something's going to happen.
Ugh.
And I want to tell y'all, man, don't be afraid. Fear is a killer, okay? The beginning is near, right?
Yep.
This whole system of shit is about done. It really is. I'm watching the flat earth take off like crazy right now. It's going in these globetards. I was just watching one lose his mind in a debate over Coriolis. And of course, that's his belief that the
Is that the one with Bob that I watched?
What's that?
I watched one on your channel with Bob, and he was trying to explain that, and I was just like, "Oh my God, he's doing bad!" Like, and he was getting all mad.
Yeah, they get really upset.
Dude, it's so funny. That's almost why it's fun to watch, because it's like, look how angry they get for no reason. It's like, and if you figured out, because I mean, when you're a kid, you go smack a bee's nest to watch them get all pissed and fly around for no other reason than to just go stir them up, and then, oh shit, they might sting me, and then it makes you want to run away, and that's fun to do.
While claiming the whole time that it's absurd and it's ridiculous. And anybody that thinks that would be retarded. That's their whole thing, right? And here we are, years later, they're still doing that, yet more and more people are coming to the realization that they're not on a spinning water ball rocketing at phenomenal speeds through some empty cosmos. I mean...
And that's when you find out the ones that don't have space as their religion.
Right.
And that's what it is. That's what I've determined. These people, these smart, some of them truthers, dude, and they're mentally retarded. And I look at it and I go, but they're not. They're smart people. And so they must want it so bad to be that way, because they've got some sort of vested, like, emotional tie to that ball.
Yeah.
They can't let go of. It's like, bro, it's okay if it's different than that. I'm not saying I know what it is.
Atheism.
And it's that big thing about being able to go, bro, we don't know what it is. And doesn't that make it more fun?
Yep.
Doesn't that make it more fun? Like, there's other shit past that, dude. We're not done exploring.
Look, you don't even have to go past that to hide land. Look.
Yeah, well.
You see that big vast blue area they call the South Pacific?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Now, these people all the time, they're going, give me your accurate model and your accurate map. Well, my friend, no one has that.
Yeah.
Not you and not me. And you know why? Because that coordinate system has already been set and you have to go by it. Okay. And it was set as with the reification that the Earth was a globe. All they did was take everything past the equator and try to mirror it. Yeah. But the proof is in the pudding. So you mean to tell me that the speed record for a sailboat in the South is 4 knots? What? Why does it go slower? Because how do you gauge your speed and distance in the ocean? When there's no other point of reference, how do you know how fast you're going or how far you've traveled?
That's a good point.
Okay? I don't know that answer.
You have to use the stars. So you have to make an observation coupled with accurate timekeeping in order to calculate your assumed position. Now, once you get past the equator, you're missing one very key element that you use for navigation in the north.
The North Star?
The North Star. Now you're stuck with nothing but movement and time.
Oh.
And that's based on an observation of something very, very far away and your estimation of how far it's gone through a little thing shaking around in your hand.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So now, how did this was such a problem that they had to offer a prize for anybody, first off, that could come up with an accurate timekeeping system that they could use aboard a ship. Spring clocks are out because as they wind down, they start to slow down.
Yeah.
And pendulum clocks are out because you're on a ship that's rocking around. So that finally this guy Harrison came up with a method, and he's touted with being able to help them calculate the longitude. But they actually set up the Royal Board of Longitude. And they're still in practice today. And with the Cartesian coordinate system, you are relegated to using that coordinate system that was developed by then. And if, as you can see, it's very easy for one to hide shit in those areas, because how do you know for real? I mean,
I know, right, dude?
thing.
Yeah, no. I mean, and how many people have giant boats and go cruising around in the vastness of that region? No one.
No.
All the ships, all the. But we have like about a minute and a half left. But all the boats, all the ships, all the airplanes, like you said, nowadays even, and for a long time, they just get in and punch a button and then look out the window and be like, "I'm the captain." You know what I mean? They're not doing anything, and they're certainly as hell not going to bump into shit.
But they always have to make corrections in the South.
Yeah.
They always have to make corrections in the South because they've lied about the longitude.
Yeah. That makes sense.
You know, I mean, Admiral Byrd, it took him 3 years, and it took him, he went in excess of 62,000 miles trying to circumnavigate Antarctica.
Wow.
That's always been one that's fascinated me too.
I'm sorry, Captain Cook.
And didn't he try to do it twice or something? I know the first time for real, and that's what really got me intrigued. I was like, okay, that's if he's following the coastline, and it's double the distance. What is going on there?
Yeah,
and then people have all these explanations. Yeah, way more. Yeah.
There was a lot more than that. So the Earth is much bigger than you're told.
Yeah, that's right. See, that's really that's what Rick's point was for when we started really kind of getting into this, and I started being really like, oh, it's flat, like, but it's not so much that it's flat, and people have this idea. Well, now that means it's a disc with the water falling off the edge in a vacuum. God,
well, try to get past 66 degrees parallel.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, that's our music for the first hour break.
Absolutely, guys. Please stick around. We will be back in like 3 minutes for hour 2. You don't want to miss hour 2, guys. So please join us in hour 2 in like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whenever.
Aloha.
Welcome back, everybody. I hope you stuck around because the first hour was a great discussion. I hope that you guys are enjoying this discussion and at least taking into consideration some of the things we're talking and being open to the discussion. That's all I ask. I'm not here to change anyone's mind or any of those things. And I know Jonathan isn't either, and I know our guest isn't, but at least please have an open mind. That's all I ever ask of anyone for any of the shows I do. And this is a discussion I think that needs to happen because there is some weird things going on, Jonathan. Do you not agree? Like, I mean, I've always thought, and everybody said, like I said in the first hour, I've always thought the world was bigger. I've had trouble with all these things over the years, and they used to get me in trouble with teachers because I would question. And I learned very quickly that they don't like that when you ask them questions that they can't answer. So I just hope people are open to the discussion.
Well, we talk about it constantly, so I figure.
Well, they listen to
They
us.
figure there's probably about a coin flip of a chance that this is what we're going to be. Maybe not full show. I don't think we've ever really done a full show with another flat Earth person like this. So that's why it's very cool. I like it because I can just delve into this and really get into a lot of the more scientific and because again, it's I'm just saying it's not that. That's what flat earther means to me. It's
And
like,
people, you have to look up pictures of Antarctica from space because I was doing it in the first hour and it's really bad.
the
Like,
problem
I mean,
is that people's minds get put on there
God.
from what they show you, which is nothing else after.
Mhm.
Dude, it keeps going. And we don't know what it is. That's so just when you say flat earth, imagine that. Imagine you're just in this, maybe it's a ball that's so vastly big. It's like they show you. It's like that you can't find a curve to it because it's that big. Okay, so cool. Still they've lied to you. And we're not going around a sun. So clearly everything's different and inverted and the sun and the moon are inside. There's some sort of dome,
Who knows?
container,
Yeah, who
membrane.
knows?
There's probably several. We have no clue how
I have
any
no
of this.
clue. And my neighbor whipped this at me yesterday, like out of the blue. We're driving around, and he's like, we were talking about this kind of like not flat Earth, but we were kind of like, I don't think the Earth is what it is. And he's on this whole thing now that it's like kind of infinite. The Earth is infinite. And I was like,
Okay.
he's like, maybe you can just keep going.
Well.
Maybe there's no end, and it's like he was considering. He said like
Yeah, yeah.
like an
Awesome.
open video game. Yeah, like he goes like
I
an
have
open
that
play.
book.
Yeah.
I have that book. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But to me,
that's
what it is.
fascinating. I never thought
because
of it
here,
that way.
this talks about that, so that like what we look up and see, basically, it doesn't say that in this book, but Crater Guy does, is that all these other circle environments would be our star system, and that's a map of everything. And then there's a giant dome, but then there's an outside of that too. Oh.
They did report a 13,000 foot height limit during that going deep exploration into Antarctica because airplanes were smashing into something. But
Really?
yeah, I don't know anymore other than what we've been told.
I have a post that showed an encyclopedia from 1952.
Yeah.
That talked about a height for a firmament.
Yep.
Straight up. So
Yep.
yeah.
Well, I
exactly.
would say that if I had to guess, because a lot of people say, how high up is your firmament, right? I would just refer to what they claim in the Kármán line. I mean, that would be my guess, my best thing. First off, we know that we can't have the air we're breathing without containment.
Yeah.
Okay? Because it's impossible to have a volume of gas without a container. It cannot happen. Okay? There's no evidence or proof of gravity affecting a gas or preventing equalization of pressurized gases, anything like that. Okay. And I always get this, well, show me your container. And it's like, okay, wait, if you're sitting there with a piece with a T-bone steak in front of you, do you need to see the cow to know that steak came from a cow? No. There's a steak there. Therefore, a cow was involved. I don't have to show you my container. I can just point out basic gas behavior laws that dictate that there must be.
Right.
Okay. As far as its shape and composition, I couldn't even begin to tell you.
And the
Now,
ways that it could work at different heights and stuff too. It could be
Sure.
not passable at a certain or in certain regions for certain reasons. I mean, dude, we're talking about stuff that's not necessarily
Well, I do know one thing,
lame, boring
Jonathan.
version of shit that we believe it is.
I do know one thing, that the government shot nukes up there at something, trying to, an Operation Fishbowl or whatever they called it. They were the only, and I thought of that when I heard about it. I looked into it. I'm like, the only thing that makes sense is that they're trying to bust through something.
Blow through something, yeah.
What in the world is Elon's rocket scraping against?
Exactly. Yep.
Does that not look exactly like if you were in an airplane looking down at a speedboat going by on the lake? It's identical.
Colorful water too. Oh, and here real quick is my reasoning, my theory on why they gave that dude the space program. Which my God, how weird is that? Out of the blue, NASA's like, yeah, we just gave it to some weird billionaire dude. It's cool. Oh, you're the reason
space,
they did
nobody
that.
makes cars.
It's because he knows how to get through one or two of the membranes, firmaments. There's multiple, I think, and I think he has technology that allows him to pass. And then he gets to lord that over them, or he's probably an ambassador of the group that has the technology that can allow them to pass, and he's the puppet that they get to put up. And well, here's how things are going to go, and it's a competing faction of they all want control of the world, Trump included, but I don't think Trump and Elon Musk are about eating and raping babies. Whereas the ones trying to take over are.
They're tools of the same system. This is probably going to blow your mind. But you've been under a one world government at least since the 40s.
Oh.
Okay? You got to think about that, the model of what took place there. For the first time in history, a general was given command of other nations' armies. Whoa. And shortly after that, we came with the United Nations.
Yep.
On land so graciously donated by the Rockefellers. And how can you not join it if it's right there in your own country? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So people would be interested to know, look at the flag of the UN. We see pretty much what Jonathan has behind him on his wall. The same Gleason's map, the Al-Biruni map, whatever. And in place of Antarctica on that flag, on that emblem, what is there in place of Antarctica? Every other continent is represented, but Antarctica is represented by the wreath of Apollo.
There it is, yeah.
The wreath of Apollo, that's a symbol of power. That's a crown. That's what the Caesars wore. So why is Antarctica depicted as a crown? Now, at 33 degrees parallel, 33 degrees longitude is where Mount, what's the name of the mountain that the fallen angels came down on?
Oh, Herman.
Herman, thank you. Mount Herman lies at 33 by 33. Interesting, right? And it might interest you to know that right now is the UNDOF. Now, we know the Watchers were there and they swore their oath to take wives of the humans, right?
Mm-hmm.
UNDOF stands for United Nations Disengagement Observer Force. And it's a highly restricted area. Observers of the UN. So what's this tell you? You've been under this one world government. You've been under, and I would just put it out there that, for lack of a better term, it's Satan's control, the Shaitan. We fight not against flesh and blood, but powers and principalities. And I find these to be really heavy duty clues. Mm-hmm. So we have the illusion of international sovereignty. Yet, isn't it funny that over the last 4 years, every country, whether they hated each other or not, all agreed to the exact same things: 6 feet distance, wear a mask, get your shot, safe and effective. Oh yeah, and all those countries also still observe the Antarctic Treaty. Isn't that crazy? Even during times of war, they observe the Antarctic Treaty. Huh, isn't that strange? They all agree. It seems strange
that you would even have to mention that, because that would be like, you'd see two dudes go to war and then one buddy just joins up with this other team and then just hauls straight ass to Antarctica and just goes, all right, we're in the war now. And they just bomb across Antarctica. Like, we're not following the treaty anymore. We're at war. I mean, so it's like, because they know people would have done that. So they're like,
Right.
no, this is a forever.
Well, it's not
treat.
just that.
It's just funny.
They'll participate in stopping you from going there.
I know it's
yeah.
out. Yeah.
That's
See,
the thing.
do you really need much more proof that it's not a ball? I mean, I'm sorry. I know that's not, you can't really say that that's proof it's not a ball, but my God, if they won't let us go down there and look, it's like, dude, you can't tell me that that's what it is then anymore.
It's scientifically impossible, the whole
Oh.
postulation. And when you go back right to the basics, right? You remember back in school when you was in kindergarten, I bet there was a globe in that classroom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Why? Did you learn world geography in kindergarten? Of course not. That was so that you'd go spin it and say, "What's this?" And the teacher says, "That's where you live." And you go, "Huh? Well, how do I not fly off? Because of gravity." Oh, well, she's a teacher. They know. They're here to make me smart, right? You don't even bother, but not me. I questioned it.
Me too.
I did. I went, "No way." I says, "How can you stick to something that's spinning around?" They said, "Well, it works like a magnet." And I said, "But I'm not magnetic." And they even went to the thing of putting a bucket and swinging it around on a rope. And I said,
Yep.
"Well, take the bottom of the bucket away. Turn the bucket over. Put the handle on the bottom of it. Now make the water stick." That's
Yeah,
what I'm
exactly.
talking about.
That's what we are talking about. Yeah.
And they just got mad at me, and said he's a problem and shit like that, because I would ask these questions. I would pin them down on shit like that.
You
But
talk to
eventually you capitulate,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, eventually you'll capitulate. You're just a kid, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they say that you can't go to Antarctica very far because of the penguins, and they want to keep it pristine. But no, they'll go nuke the Amazon rainforest and pollute the oceans, and it's like, okay.
Well,
And
it's the
people buy
penguins that are running the shit, man. The penguins are in charge, man. Why do you think the elites try to dress up like penguins when they have their little functions? I was joking about that on my show one night. I said, "That's what it is. The penguins are ruthless little bastards. They're the ones that are running the whole show, right?" And like the next day, I ran across an article where they gave an admiralty to a penguin
Oh my
in
God.
Antarctica or in Norway. And I was like, "You got to be shitting me." And they had this thing like waddling along with little medals on it, and there was generals with it, and all these troops lined up, and the thing was like stopping and looking at them and shit. You can find it online.
Wow.
It's
They're
insane, man.
laughing at us.
And this happened right after you made a tongue-in-cheek comment about penguins running everything.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
dude.
I was
That's-
like, "No, this is unreal." And
That's
so
not, that's the coincidence that's not a coincidence, right?
right. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"So this is
Wild.
the whole reason is because of the penguins. We can't go down there." Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So that means you just spoke some truth out loud to yourself and randomly and didn't know it, and then and then your higher self or the whole situation had, oh shit, and then it made sure you saw that what you just said was real on some level. Oh
That's
damn,
great.
and that's what I like about this reality is that
Well, the next show, I just went like
That
this. I
happened.
said, "Y'all thought I was full of shit. Look at here. I'm going to show you something." I showed that video clip, and people were like, "No way. Come on."
absolutely
Yeah,
make
got
people
me
go,
too.
no way. Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
Cool.
I was like, "Holy crap, I might be onto something here." And it was also every time I'd start talking about the penguins and doing my shtick on them, my stream would start getting messed up.
Really.
And I
That's
was like, "It's a
interesting.
damn penguin." So even now, still, if something happens, we go, "It's a freaking penguins again, man."
Yeah, right. Well, that's like in what was it? Not Family Guy. Oh, it was in Rick and Morty. And they were talking about the squirrels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude. What is the thing about the squirrels? And now I've noticed that, and I'm like, squirrels are weird. But then now people talk about the birds not being real, and Operation Dragonfly. And then what's this new movie that just came out? It's in Disclosure Hub. It's the 3-body problem is what it says. And they learn how to make it's this computerized type person or an advanced race maybe of beings telling us how they create these ultra computers, something that's like we put all this energy that we've learned how to do into one proton. And it expands, and the people are standing there in VR watching this happen, and it takes over the whole everything. Everything you see in the sky is this proton now that's been turned into this supercomputer. And then the person talks to, "Are you there?" "Oh yeah, I'm here, and I know what's going on. I'm in full capacity now, and I'm up and running." And they're like, good. And it goes, now I want to shrink back down to my normal size. And it goes, okay. And it comes back down, and it's like this little purple crazy thing. And then they make 4 of them, and they entangle 2 with one another.
Oh God.
And then,
My God.
which means that now this reality happens exactly where they have the other one, and they can witness it in real time going on and interact with it in real time through this thing. And it's a computer. It's just, and I'm like, oh shit, dude, wow, it's super trippy. I don't know, it's like a movie that's coming out, and it was just like, holy shit, dude.
Is it like realities stacked on realities premise? This
Uh,
is wild, dude. Like, I don't even know how to comprehend
being
that.
inside an AI program, dude, I think it's made because it's a really well thought out concept, but I think it's bullshit because I think it doesn't equate for a lot of things. In the explanation she starts giving about why you see all these things, blah, blah, blah. Faith not involved, a lot of things that's bullshit. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
if you lean towards just listening to her and going that way, you're like, oh, we're doomed. We're in that, and there's no way out, and there's no, because it gives you a no hope feeling. It's just, that's what I noticed of it.
Well, the system wants you to feel vulnerable
Yep.
and afraid.
Yeah.
Any minute, an asteroid could wipe you out like the dinosaurs. Be careful, Al Qaeda's coming to cut your head off. I mean, it's just constant fear. And if you're in a state of fear, you can't think. Also,
say
if you're
that all
so
the time.
busy and tired all the time, you're
Yeah.
also not thinking. You're just looking forward to chilling back and watching your entertainment and going to bed, so you can go for another week day.
God, yes.
Yeah, and this is all by design. This is definitely by design. And unfortunately for them, people are waking up. And I don't know if it's the creator, I think it is. And various signs are being given to those with eyes to see and ears to hear. Mandela effects, those particularly in the Bible. Holy crap, if people
That's
are not
wild,
seeing
yeah.
what that is doing, it's making verses blasphemous.
Yeah.
It really is. And also, just to show that it's only a thing of our time, now we have winky emojis in there. Winky emojis. Nowhere do you ever put a semicolon, then a parenthesis.
In what? In the
In
Bible?
the Bible.
There's, whoa, dude.
Look at Jonathan going, oh no.
Okay.
There's winky
Used to
emojis?
be when the pronoun of he and him when referring to God was always capitalized. It's not any longer. It changed to lowercase h's. I'm
Wow.
like, this is really crazy.
Where do you have the place where the winky emoji is?
I might have it marked down.
If not, we don't have to do it right this second, but I gotta find that at some point, because
I want to find that out too.
Let's
yeah,
see
I
if
guess
can
we could
find it
probably
here.
type it in, find somewhere.
While he's
'Cause I
looking,
gotta-
Jonathan, I just had a whole debate with somebody that's really into the Bible about the lion and the wolf.
Yeah.
And
Lion
like
and the lamb.
the lion and the but how they
Wolf and
changed
the
it.
lamb.
They changed it, and it's supposed to be a wolf now. And he's like, no, it's not a wolf.
Yeah.
Did he go to his book?
Yeah, he went to his book and it says wolf.
And then so what?
Yeah, and now he's all messed up. He's like, I know it's not wolf, and I'm like, well, apparently you're wrong.
Dude, I wish you could have showed him the other 9. Right? There's
Okay.
there's 9 really good ones, bro. You got to write them all down and be like, and then you'll have him pale and wanting a bucket at the end, being like, oh, my God's real. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, bro, but your God's not in that book, and that's why this is happening. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's just crazy, like how it's ramping up. These and I keep saying that I talk to I'm very blessed. I've said this before. I have great friends around me. I have I keep my circle small, especially in my real personal life. But the few people I have around me, man, Jonathan, I wish you could be here for the discussions. You would fit right in my backyard, man. You'd be like, oh my God, this is like my people.
Yeah,
We just talk about it, and we don't try to be right. We don't try to. We just talk. And we just bounce ideas off of each other, and we're very open to it. And then what about this? Like right now, my buddy Sean, he's big on, he was looking into how you ever heard we have a twin? Everybody's got a twin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's like,
Yeah.
what about if the twin they're talking about is in another, God, I wish you'd see it. This is why I want him on to explain it. But he's like, what if in another reality, that's when you pray, you're praying to that twin, like that energy, and we're tethered to it. Right, so we're tethered into that other reality, and stuff like. And he explains it way better than I do. But it's the general that we're tethered to this twin, and that's who we're interacting with, and gives us these gut feelings, and it's just interesting.
It's
I was
very
just like,
similar to what I was just kind of talking about with that movie. How the
Mhm.
two universes are quantumly entangled, and one's like an
Right.
inverse of the other. So
Yep.
a twin or an inverse twin,
Yep.
which then goes back to a lot of Gnostic teachings about the two pillars,
Right.
and then the archway being the blending of it. And so
Mhm.
it comes to like a center point. And again, it's like that video I was watching where if you've got black with red lettering and white with blue lettering, you're not going to get a black and white yin yang with red and blue lettering. They want it to be gray with purple lettering. And that's so, at least on the dark side of things, right? So that's blending that they're kind of doing with the 2 and 1. Anyway.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's the kind of conversations I have pretty much daily. Is what we're
Cool.
getting into. Like I love it. I love, and then like I said, it's
Soul
not about
sparking stuff.
Oh,
That's stuff
yeah.
that sparks your soul. And,
It does.
and then if you're open, dude, you'll say shit like the Penguins are running everything, man. And then you'll get confirmation the next day. You're like, oh, dude, I was channeling some shit and I didn't even
Yep.
know it.
Well, I can tell you one because
Fantastic.
in the first hour, Dave brought up the P1000 and the P900. My wife has a P1000, and that thing is
I have a
incredible.
P900.
Oh my God! Like she gets, I'm just like, wow. I think they overshot on these cameras. Like they're like, you made them too strong. Yep,
They are discontinuing
Yep.
them.
Yep,
And
they're too
Nikon
powerful.
has signed a contract with NASA.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, that's crazy.
Yeah, just coincidentally.
It's just
But
coincidence, guys.
Cat's out of the bag already, man.
Yep.
I mean,
You're not even going to be able to believe the looking into that viewfinder anymore. It's going to be AI projection.
Yeah.
It's going to look so real, but they're going to change it on you. You're not going to be looking through a camera anymore and being like, oh, that's real. No.
Well, we were talking earlier about these, how they get so desperate and angry. A lot of these globetards. And, you know, you've got some of them out there fight the flat earth. Craig, you know, this guy, he's a psychopath. MC Toon, another psychopath. I mean, there's just, and every one of them are atheists. Now, I don't purport to be a Christian, so to speak, because I've found out a long time ago the devil is the biggest deceiver that there is. And he has disguised himself as the church. So
100%.
beware. Okay. But when you come to the reality of what this place is and what it isn't, you realize that it is a creation. You are created and you are at the center of it all. You are in the middle of the universe. You are a part of this earth. You are not on this earth. You are part of this earth and you were created with purpose. It gives you more perspective and it shows that you are also, hey, I am accountable for my actions. And you'll find that most of these people are miscreants in some kind of way that they wouldn't want to have to be accountable to a higher power for their actions. They would rather think that they are the master of their destiny, the captain of their own fate. That ain't the case, babe.
Yep.
They'll find it out. They're going to find that out. But when you come to a realization that, yeah, this shit's real, you know, I am accountable for what I do. I am accountable for what I say. I am accountable for my actions. You know,
Yeah.
they can't handle that. And I think that's why there's a large number of these guys are atheists. And on top of it, miscreants. I mean, you got guys painting their fucking nails. They got another one comes on not anymore, who would come on that's one of them he-she's.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, come on, man. You're a 66-year-old man. Shouldn't you be somebody's grandpa? You know, but no, you're tucking your wiener and wearing a dress. What's wrong with you, man?
Yeah. It's a mind.
Mental.
It's a mind virus that we're experiencing, and man,
100%.
some people are going with it, and other people are, well, have been awake for a long time and saw it kind of coming, and then other people are waking up because of it. Like, whoa, what is happening?
Yeah.
Yeah. They never create. It's never creating what they're doing. It's always inverting and distorting.
Yes.
And
That's
making
all they
ugly.
do. And yeah, they just make everything ugly and and but they never create anything. I fear that's what I think they fear the most is creation. And
Yes.
it explains them too how they're breaking us from this connection to nature.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how many people are disconnected from nature? God, man, I need to be out in nature, and I'm not
A
just talking about.
creator is going to make other creators.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
just how it is. We'll be baby creators. We'll be little C.
Yes,
But
we
we're
are
there
co-
and we are to create. And
Yep.
what does every cool person in this world do, including yourself? You create shit, whether it's music or art or some
Mhm.
wood carving or
Glass
building
blowing.
landscapes or building houses or just tending your own area and
Yep.
taking care of animals, taking care of people. We're creators in that we have imagination because we're connected to the creator. And the things
Yep.
that are trying to manipulate us and control us, the parasites, don't have that.
Nope.
And so that's what they envy so much, that and the body. The body isn't a thing because clearly they're like some sort of what we say, invisible force or entity that doesn't have a body. At least that's what it's been reported to
I'll
be.
straight up say it. Demons.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Demon. Yeah.
And demons are actually, now this might rub some people the wrong way, but demons are actually the disembodied spirits of Nephilim.
Yeah.
Because they were given no
We've
place
talked
on
about
earth
this.
or in
Yep.
heaven.
Yes.
And so they
imagine how
tried
bummer
to
that would be to
possess.
be in this shithole for so long because they made it a shithole,
Yeah.
and that's how they view it. And
Right.
now no body. Oh.
Well, the only way to incarnate is if someone imbibes spirits or through the willingness. You see, that's the whole thing. You have to willingly invite them in to be a host. And a lot of people don't know that they're doing that when they crack open their favorite whiskey, their favorite beverage of alcohol, Al Ghul, the flesh-eating spirit. Okay? You have willingly invited spirits into your home, and now you are subject to their influence.
And I didn't even build on that, Dave. Like you think about, they've infiltrated everything, music, movies. I mean, you're letting them in, and it's kind of weird because I'm watching the series Supernatural, and that's the only way that the devil or God can get in you is that you have to invite them in. They can't just take you over. You have to willingly say, "I accept you." And it's just weird that as soon as you said that, I was like, "Oh, they're kind of showing us in that show."
They'll find a way to trick you.
Oh,
real
absolutely.
easy. Like
Yep.
how many people take a drink and don't realize what it actually is.
Mhm.
And it's always negative shit always happens around it. Always.
Always.
Yeah,
Man.
I almost died.
Me too.
Listen, I was a
Rick
hard
almost died.
drinker for 30 years.
Join the club.
I
We're
have-
here. We're all here.
I've had 6 DUIs in my
Wow.
life.
Wow. You're
Okay.
supposed to be in prison, sir.
Well, you have to spread those out over time and different locations.
If you were in Colorado, that wouldn't all matter. They made a new law, and they're like, I think it's after 3, prison.
Yeah. Well, it's that way now. In Michigan, well, let's see. My first one was like 1986, but it was really a spiritual awakening on mushrooms that
Nice.
actually cured me for 13 years now. Hey,
Nice, brother.
Wow.
it
Congrats.
actually cured me, and it left me with a natural revulsion toward alcohol. I can't even, just thinking about it makes me nauseous.
I know, me
It's
too now.
Awesome.
I'm 5 years. I'm coming up on 6.
Good.
And then Rick, like, you
my
don't even
God.
really count your years anymore, but it's a lot.
I'm past 17 now.
Okay.
Awesome.
So, yeah. Awesome.
It's been a
So
long time.
we're all well aware of the devastating effects that surround that shit.
And I'd make a venture to say that it's the reason that we're all able to converse like we are. Maybe not because it was alcohol, but because we went so far down into a place of, oh my God, and had to pull our shit back together, get our shit straight with God again, and go, okay, I on purpose don't want to do that anymore, ever.
Yeah.
And made a change, and some of it came from him, some of it came from us, but a lot of it was our willingness and our own personal
We're
thing.
co-creators.
Yes.
Co-creators, okay?
Right.
And that's the thing, like you said, with bringing a life into the world, a man and a woman co-create. And it's God that gives that spark of life. We give it the ingredients, right? And God gives it that spark of life. Nobody can explain where that comes from.
Yep.
You see? And that's one of the things they're very jealous of, is that the fact that they cannot create, that we are above them. They want to be above us, and so they con us into doing their work and perverting. All they can do, all archons can do, is pervert that which has been created.
Yep.
That's it. This is why you don't see any new stories come out of Hollywood. They're always just a remake. All the songs coming out are now remakes, reboots. Everything that's coming out of that whole satanic industry is nothing more than a repeat of the repeat of the repeat with a little perversion added to it. That's it. Nothing new being created.
Nope. Yeah. I bet, and that ventures me to think, I go back to the Cabbage Patch Kid thing from the 1800s and all the orphans, and then like, ooh, great resets and multiple resets, and then like a group of people that might be able to hide, and they keep like their little world of shit that they know about, oh God, and then run and hide, and then come back out and bring some other people, and then haha, we run over society again.
Yeah.
And they play it out for a certain amount of time, and they're like, oh shit, this one's going a little long. Damn, we don't have any new stories. Because think about in the 80s. Look at movies in the 80s. They were good. You were like, oh, I mean, they still had, you can go back and you can still see that influence in there. It was just much more mild. But it was still that same trash Hollywood crap. It was just much more mild because back then people couldn't have taken what they see now. But they were interesting. I mean, the actors had shit to say to one another, and it was like you had to like, you were like, oh, my brain's activating here a little. I can feel it. Whereas now you put on something and it's just, it's like a piece of plastic. It's so dreck. I can't.
Have you seen the it's a pretty recent movie called Nefarious?
Oh, I think so.
What's it about?
I think
Okay, so it's this guy's on death row, and this attorney has taken his case to come in and determine whether or not he's fit to stand trial, whether he's insane or not. And the guy says he's possessed by a demon called Nefarious, Neferatu. And he and you I don't know, man, as you watch this, it's kind of, there's very little scenery change. Okay, it's a dialogue. And man, this guy, when he comes out and he says, the guy says, well, it doesn't bother me any. He says, I'm an atheist. And he just looks at him and says, you pathetic meat sack. He says, my father's realm is full of you. You know, talking about, you know, because the guy says, he gets him to say, go ahead, come into me. He says, give it time. Give it time. But you got to see it. This movie is really, really well done. The guy that plays it, because he'll come back into the regular dude that's being possessed, and he's like just a scared, crying mess.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, boom, that guy comes into him, and he's just like this other character. And man, is
it an older movie?
No, it actually, I think it's 2023.
Oh shit! Then no,
Yeah,
I
wrote it down.
I was thinking about a movie similar to that, where the dude's like possessed, but it's not really him. But then it's craziness. But anyway, but man, that sounds like a decent movie. I'm gonna have to look into it.
Yeah, I had to write that down.
It's really, really good, really well done. You know,
wow, there's not much of those.
Run across a good one like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's not much new stuff that's worth any. So,
you know, and it starts out, you know, the thing first starts out, it's his attorney, and his attorney gets done signing this like letter. You're like, what's this guy doing? And you see him go over and straighten his degree on the wall. And then he turns around, opens up the window, and jumps out. And then you see his degree go and tilt all by itself again. And then that's how this guy, and the guy shows up that's supposed to take this case. And he says, hi, I'm so, and the guy just finishes it for him, gives him his whole resume, all his accolades, who his girlfriend is, how long he's been in the relationship, you know, blah, 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 knows everything about this dude. And the guy's like, how would he know all this? Oh, he must have done some really heavy duty research on me or something, you know. But yeah, you'll like it. It's a great.
Cool. Yeah, right on. Any named actors, or is it like kind of randoms?
Nobody that I recognized.
Well, that's
Nobody
usually
that I
better.
recognized.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Cool.
Yeah, but the guy playing the prisoner, I swear to God, that guy, he deserves, if they're going to give out awards for acting, that guy get one. Absolutely.
Very
Absolutely.
cool. I know I'll be watching tonight then, because I'm
Yeah.
definitely checking that out.
Yeah,
Well,
and you know, it's
they
funny
say the
when they
best trick the devil ever pulled was convincing people that he doesn't exist.
Exactly.
You know,
and
and there
that's very real.
is definitely a malevolent force that is ruling the world. Absolutely. I mean, this
Mhm.
is evident. This is
Yeah.
evident. And the way it operates is by fooling us continuously,
Yep.
continuously, fooling you into participating into contracts, because even metaphysically, a contract must be voluntary. So they trick you into your own enslavement.
Absolutely.
You're a citizen, come vote. You just
Yep.
gave your consent for whatever happens.
Yep.
You just gave your
It's on
consent.
that, yeah, it's on every level too. Like you hear actors and musicians even coming forward about how they made a deal. Like
Mhm.
they're actually coming out and admitting it. Like it's getting to the point now where I've heard musicians say many and actors that they made a deal and they had that's their end. You know, there's a heavy price. They know, but they did make a deal to get where they are.
Yep.
It's
Have,
interesting. Like there's
have
something there,
you
man.
have you heard the theory that the millennial reign of Christ has already come and gone?
I do. I
Yeah,
have.
yeah, I have. Hmm.
There's a lot of evidence to substantiate that.
I know.
It really is. And I've wondered, you know, because this is like the short season, and like you're saying, they're not making any bones about it. Why would they need to if time was short?
Right.
You know,
Good point.
the
Yeah.
gig is up.
Yeah.
Might as well come clean with everything. Why not?
Well, yeah, they don't hide anything now. Now it's
That's
just
what I'm
right in your
saying. Yeah,
face.
yeah.
Like,
And yeah, I'm actually a big proponent of that because, well, I just in any way that we have been told something, and that's kind of the general consensus. A lot of people kind of go with that. Dude, anybody that presents things to me that seem like they could be valid, I don't just latch onto it, but I'm like, yep, that sounds more plausible. I'm just that way because
Hmm?
that's what I did the very first time I heard somebody even the concept of flat Earth.
Hmm?
We were on a roof. I was roofing my buddy's house, and this new dude who was from New York, and he was a really hard dude to work with. Oh my goodness! But anyway, God, dude. But he goes, "You know the world's flat, right, bro?" I was just like, huh,
you're like,
"Okay,
oh no.
yeah, that's awesome, dude. Whatever." And he goes, "No, really." And I'm like, "Okay." And we were just climbing off the roof, and we got to the bottom, and he's like, he goes, I'm like, "How on earth do you possibly wrap your head around that?" And he goes, "You just had a piece of cardboard in front of me," and he drew a circle. And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, I'm like, "So," and I don't remember what he said first. And then I go, "Well, north, how do you go around the world?" He goes, "That's north." And he drew a circle and inside the circle. And I went, "Oh, shit." And then he said a couple other little things. And I was just like, it's flat. I didn't need to see any videos. I didn't. And now that doesn't mean I went way back. I went back, to Globe. But I was there in my mind and spirit. I was like, yeah, that's right. And then I got on YouTube and I didn't know anything about research. I was a raging alcoholic. I didn't really care that much other than to say that was very interesting. And I watched some things on flat Earth and was like, compelling. And then and I didn't get deep. And then I watched some things on not flat Earth and I went, debunked. And that was it. And I turned it back off and I went, it was a neat theory for about a month. And then but then once I saw Mark Passio, honestly, just popping blood vessels about people talking to him about flat Earth, I was like, why so angry? Something more here. So I started digging, and then I got interested in it, and then I went, oh my God. And I was about 400 hours in, and I'm like, dude, it's flat.
If you think about it this way, and this is one of the first things I like to initially when somebody's asking questions, say, if no one had ever told you that the earth was a globe, would you ever come to that conclusion on your own?
No.
The answer, of course, is going to be no.
No.
And this is why the globe has to be taught. We all know what it really is inside, but over years of indoctrination, and if you don't go along with it, what happens to you? Same thing that happens right now. The other kids are trained to make fun of you. The teacher's going to ridicule you, give you their narrative on it. You better buy it, or else they're going to call you stupid too. You see? So you get beat into conformity of it. And when you realize that truth is truth, even in a minority of one, then you can, and don't ever fear that ridicule. Don't ever, because those people, it's not their fault. They were trained to do that. Think about what they did with kids even in the old days. Put him up front in the class with a dunce cap on his head. What's that for? To single him out.
Yep.
To get him to conform with everybody else, or else you'll be singled out and laughed at.
That happened to me in class. I didn't get the dunce cap. I didn't get the dunce cap, but I got centered out in the front of the class. Absolutely.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
Which I always thought was a dumb shit thing, because they put me up by the teacher's desk in front of the class. Now I have a captive audience.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me, dude. That lasted for 30 seconds one time. And then she's like trying to teach, and she sees everyone's face focused on me, and then she'd turn around and I'd be like, And she's like, no more of that. Get back where you were. Oh, it was so fun. Oh,
you
hooray.
had the same bad kid manual I did.
Absolutely. Yep. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
There were
that
two of
usually
us.
gives way. That usually gives way to, all right, get out of the classroom, and it's like, awesome. I didn't want to fucking be here in the first place.
Yep.
Jeez.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Wait,
I didn't get kicked out a whole lot. I only got kicked out a couple times. I push it right to that limit, because to me, once I got the whole class laughing, I'm like, well, now this is fun now.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, so I skipped school, and what's my punishment? They suspend me from school. I'm like,
I know, don't come
you
again.
guys really didn't think that shit out very good at all, did you? You know,
That happened. Yeah, they put me in front of the class, and then it got to the point where they called my mom in, and then they'd be saying like I was causing trouble because I was asking questions, and that's the God's truth. Then they called that kind of like bothering them, and they were like, and so my mom had to do the thing like, oh, I'll talk to him and all that. But thank God, at least when I got out of the school, she was like, you just keep asking questions, like that's a good thing. Like, so I got encouraged to ask questions, but that's a sad state when they bring you're being punished for asking questions.
Yeah.
That's messed up in so many levels.
Like, calling your parents.
Yes. More than once.
I would lose my shit. I would lose my shit. I'm so glad I don't have kids right now. I believe I will be able to in the future as things progress and unfold.
Oh my God,
and
you
then
would
like,
lose it.
hey, right on, and I'll be a good father now. But like, if I had kids right now and they were of any age, dude, I wouldn't know what to do with myself. Let's just say that, because I'd be worried constantly. I'd be trying to constantly fight off not going and killing someone for touching or saying or thinking something around my kid. And then it would be my fault for him being out there anyway. So now I got to homeschool. I mean, it would just be this massive like shift that you need to be more prepared for.
I think public education should be abolished.
Yeah.
Yep.
I really
I
do.
think we should be allowed to have it. Here's my thing. We should, as a society, we should be able to say, oh, our kids can go off to school, right? Like, say, a small community, and they all run and go hang out with a couple of teachers, but it's like good, and you want them there, and the teachers, the teachers, and and you are a teacher sometime yourself, and it's a rotating, and it's, it doesn't all have to be done just by the parents at home with their kids individually. Like, there can be a school, not building that a bus takes them to. Not like that, but like, you understand what I mean? It's just got so perverted. It's been so perverted. They take good ideas. They take our creativity and go, oh, good idea. Now let's turn it into a prison and rule over them and put them in the front with a dunce cap. Give them grades, make them fail.
Yep.
Damn.
It's like every technological breakthrough. Every technological breakthrough. Awesome. How can we kill people with this?
Right. Yeah.
It's just like, what?
I know.
Yeah. It's so
slowly and painfully, and maybe make them mutated and act weird.
Yeah.
How can we be as diabolical as humanly possible?
Right, and then people still have a hard time thinking that there's aliens living among us, because it's like people wouldn't do this shit. Oh, you don't know money, or some people are evil and psychopaths, and it's like, no, dude, some of this shit you couldn't think up when you really see what the plan is, and you go, wow, man,
This is
No,
why they
no.
want you to be the inverted pentagram. You
Yeah.
understand? They want you to be ego oriented. They want you to think that the meat suit is the be all and end all of it, right? He who dies with the most toys wins. And what are we doing there? When you look at the pentagram, it's 5 points. The top one, that represents spirit. The other 4 points represent the elements: earth, fire, air, and water, right? So when you put the earthly elements, the worldly things above the spirit, invert the pentagram, now you're egocentric, you're self-centric. You see, this is where you have to be careful with when you're talking about freedom. Okay? Freedom from what? Government or God? Because God's laws are already set. They don't even have to be written down. It's called natural law. Okay? So does that mean you abandon that as well? Do you abandon God's law, total freedom, total liberty? No, you can't. It has to be within confines. And who is to regulate those confines? Well, yourself, of course. You're not an animal, are you? So that's where they want people believing that they're an animal. It's survival of the fittest, dog eat dog.
Yep.
And it's a bunch of crap. A great
That's
song
why it's
that
called a beast
exemplifies-
system. Yeah.
Yeah, a great song that exemplifies that is Dogs by Pink Floyd. It's on the Animals.
I love that album. Oh my god.
Yeah,
It's my favorite album.
that song Dogs is
Yep.
exactly what it is, man.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
There's a
It's
line in
great-
there about then you fly down south and lay your fat ass in the sand and die, you know? It's
Yeah.
like,
Yep. Pink Floyd had such an interesting way of putting their messages out because their music just nothing sounded like Pink Floyd ever.
right?
And they
Well,
just
that's-
had that like siren sound almost to them where you're just like, they start singing and playing. You're like, oh, it just immediately
Yeah.
grabbed the hold of me. And I was just like, wow, listen to that. That's so different than anything else ever. It's like Steely Dan almost, like where
Yes, yeah.
Steely Dan comes on and you're like, oh, what is this? I mean,
Yeah.
just it's so different, vastly different than anything else. You're like, whoa.
My
we
parents
could do a
were-
whole show on music, man. We could do
My
a whole-
parents,
Oh,
when I
yeah.
was growing up, my parents were stoners, and so there were a lot of, bong sessions in our front room, not necessarily involving me, sometimes accidentally involving me. I'd be in the circle and somebody just passed me a bong,
Yeah.
But so people was all the time, hey, I remember somebody going, hey, have you ever listened to Pink Floyd? And my dad was like, no. And so they had Dark Side of the Moon and put that on. And my dad's like, that is phenomenal. That is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I got exposed to the Moody Blues as well.
Oh yeah.
Love the Moody Blues. And, so that's going way back. But I remember there was a lot of those guys sitting around there were, not long back from Vietnam.
Yeah. There's a lot of great music. The Doors. I love the Doors.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'm huge on that. And it's kind of funny because in high school, I dated a girl she was in love with the Doors. Like, and at that time, I keep saying this, like, you're not ready for certain music. And I definitely wasn't ready for the Doors back when I was in my late teens. I was like, I don't like this music. I was all heavy metal and hard rock. And then like 5 years later, I listened to the Doors again, and I love them. Like I have all their albums, and it made sense, and it's fascinating. I just love music like that. That they're trying to put some message into it.
That's interesting though. That group, that whole genre, the 27 Club,
Absolutely.
primarily.
Yeah.
If you look, they all had ties to high-level military.
Yep.
Oh,
Absolutely.
It
Yep.
was like that was all given to us.
Mhm.
That was like you will
Yeah.
hear, feel, and think all this. The Beatles was a full creation.
Yeah.
Like some straight up dude. I can't remember what they said his name was, but he was
Jim
so-
Morrison's dad was the admiral for
Tonka.
the Gulf of Tonkin.
Gulf of Tonka.
Yeah.
That's it. Yep.
And Frank Zappa's dad too was some sort of high level military guy. I mean, these are people that aren't little. That's like, wow, Zappa, of course,
and Jimmy,
of course, Zappa, dude. Yeah, and
Jimmy gets stationed in Germany during Vietnam. Listen, all the black guys went to the bush. They didn't go to top secret bases.
No, they
over
all went to
Germany.
Germany
I'm
like
sorry.
Elvis did.
Yeah.
They said Elvis in some cushy job.
Yeah.
You know, what
Wow.
was it? Laurel Canyon too, right? That's where they were all. Those bands were around too. I saw a whole documentary, the Laurel Canyon.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this is all
Which is
government.
where that video that you sent me about that kid that snuck in, well, that was in that party for the, remember you sent me
Yep.
that video. You know what I'm
Yep.
talking about. And then
Oh,
the guy
absolutely.
kicked out
Was
right
up.
at the last minute and looked into that window, and oh
Yep.
boy.
That's
Yeah.
where the Manson murders took place, up in Laurel Canyon as well.
Yep.
I've drove up there. I've been up in there, right by the house, and it's just not. I think they just recently tore it down. But
What's the
here's the
feeling you
interesting
got
thing:
being
where I
there?
lived at in California for a while, I had a weed farm, and I was right on the edge of Death Valley. And I've been to the place where Manson got arrested, where they caught everybody at that hideout. It's up in Goler Wash. It's really crazy. But anyway, the thing about Tex Watson, okay? Tex Watson was murdering people long before he ever met Charlie Manson. He lived in the little town for a while where I lived at, Olancha. Probably never heard of it. South of Lone Pine. It's kind of a living ghost town. Okay. There was an old man that these hippie types followed him home from the store across the highway. And the next thing people knew, they found him crawling in his yard, just beat half to death. His description at the hospital was that same kid at the store followed him home with two girls. And every time this guy kicked him, the girls would laugh. They got away with about $50, and this guy, Mr. Stubbs, he died. Never caught the kid, right? During the Manson trials, a clerk in that same store watching the TV saw Tex Watson on the TV and recognized him as the same guy that followed Mr. Stubbs home for the cold case murder, right? Told Bugliosi and the rest of the prosecution team about it. The LA sheriff's office and shit sat on it. They didn't do anything about it because it would have destroyed the whole thing about everybody being under Manson's mind control. Yeah. Right.
So are you suggesting that maybe their story of Charles Manson wasn't exactly the way they tell us?
Manson and that whole thing was a psyop. That was MK Ultra. Now, what's interesting about right there where they caught Manson at, okay, up in Goler Wash, just beyond Goler Wash is the boundary line to China Lake Naval Air Weapons Station. You ever heard of it? Things mostly underground. That's where they pioneered MK Ultra at. Okay, they just recently shut it down after that last big earthquake that happened in California right there. I think it was like a magnitude 7.5. It destroyed a shitload of the underground facilities. But that's right there near that border, right there near that base. Now, the weird thing about that place, it's a really weird place. There's a little town called Ridgecrest that if it wasn't for the base, that town would have never even survived. Most people, if they don't work in town, they work at the base. Nobody seems to be from there.
We've got 2 minutes. We've got 2 minutes.
Okay, so nobody seems to be from there, but this place is really strange, man. Really, really strange.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know that much about the psyop of Charles Manson. I've looked into that. We'll have to have you back on if you're cool to come back on at some point, man. I'd love to have you back on.
Me too.
We can clearly go all over the board, and like I said, it's fantastic that you've got some life experience behind you too. And I mean, it's good to meet you because we share a lot of the same values and ideas in life. So. This will be
I really enjoyed this conversation. I really did. Like, this 100%. Is incredible, and I would love to have you back on, Dave, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. So plug yourself and say some of the stuff where people can come find you talking about your other things and what you do.
Well, you can find me on YouTube at Sovereign Soul Unchained Mind. I think you can just do the @SSUM3690 to get to it on there. And on Rumble, I'm SSUM369. And I usually do a live most nights of the week. I put a join link up into the top of the chat. So if anybody's got questions and or want to debate about whether or not it's flat or round or whatever, just you click it and come on up, and as long as you have conversational decorum, and we can go all night if you need. So that's where you can find me. I've got 2,060 subscribers now.
That's
cool,
amazing.
man. Yeah, that was one thing I noticed about you. You can just keep on going. You definitely think you've got some.
And I like the
stamina.
fact that and I like the fact that you you want to come and debate. Here's the join, hit the join button and come and put, let's have a talk. I love it.
Yeah, put your 2 cents in.
Put your two, yeah.
I've had physics professors on there. One I drove him to alcoholism, I think, unfortunately. He actually got drunk and challenged me to a fight and was gonna fly here and then wanted me to pick him up at the airport so he could kick my ass. I mean, I was just like laughing so hard.
Yeah, see, and that, on that note, that would be a good place to to say, well, see, that's why we should all be willing to have a more open mind.
Yes.
And here at the Crypt, Rick and Jonathan show, we do indeed have open minds.
Absolutely, we do. And thank you guys so much for listening. We will be back next Thursday. Check out Jonathan's show this Saturday. And we'll see you next Thursday, guys. Take care.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Dave, for showing up.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Cool. Aloha, everybody.